And we are live. Look at that. Hi, it's Jeff Pulver, and I'm really grateful to be speaking with Mark Vange today, and talking about look my very favorite topic, and that's of course vCons, and after all the things I learned in July about vCons and robocalling and stuff, compliance has become like the thing I really focus on, and I got wind of a work that Mark has been doing in the space of vCons, and well, hey, welcome to our live stream right now. How are you? How you doing?
I'm doing great. And if you randomly see a dog nose poking through the virtual screen here, my apologies. She will not
Ah,
leave me alone.
it's a good talent. Hey, it's all good. So people who are tuning in right now and they hear about vCons, but so what is your involvement with what is your relationship with vCons and how do you put them to work?
Sure. So let's, by way of background, so what we do at Autom8ly is we make AI solutions. We largely focus on high compliance environments, insurance and health and finance and things where you can't take any chances, and where there's high compliance requirements and SOC 2 and ISO 27001 and all that kind of stuff. And in order to deliver that, what we did is we built this whole infrastructure called Agent Genie. And Agent Genie basically is like a firewall, a container in which all of our agents always run. So Agent Genie is, an AI. The agents themselves are an AI. And when someone asks their agent or their Claude or their Chat GPT or whatever to do something for them, rather than being able to just go out and access all the tools and access everything out there, the agent is confronted with first having to explain to Agent Genie what it's going to do and exactly how it's going to do it. And that
Really?
means which tools it's going to use, what commands, what scopes, what frequency, what size of responses it's expecting, and so on. And what Agent Genie does is basically negotiates with the agent to try and minimize the risk, right? So we're trying to reduce risk for compliance and for safety and so on. And once they agree on something, they essentially sign a contract. Agent Genie builds a deterministic, enforceable firewall so that the agent can later try to convince the AI that's running the firewall to change its mind. No, it's basically like writing a piece of code that says, I will only let in through this stuff that we've already agreed on, and anything else, any other escalation, anything like that, we need to renegotiate. And then there's the actual action itself. So then the agent goes and performs this activity, reads the email, scans the database, fetches the calendar, whatever it is, right? And so with our focus being in high compliance environments, we have this kind of, several kind of components, and one of them is the Compliance Genie. And what the Compliance Genie does is it allows us to basically ingest the security policies of this enterprise, and then publish for the compliance professionals all of what is in compliance called artifacts, like all of the proofs and all of the here's what's been happening and the logs and so on. And so if you think about it, we have all these conversations, and the conversation between the agent and the Agent Genie is a conversation. It happens to be between two agents, but they are literally negotiating, right? And then the conversation between the agent and the compliance layer is a conversation. The conversation between the agent and the actual tools that it's using is a conversation. And so we started off just kind of logging, and then you get into the questions of how do you prove auditability, and how do you for these people who are in compliance who now need to generate artifacts to demonstrate their SOC 2 compliance, right? How do they show that this stuff is actually representative of what happened, and authenticity and non-repudiation and all of that stuff, which if you're running a bank or if you're running an insurance company, you actually care about.
Right.
And so after a lot of research and a lot of running around, and obviously I've been aware of your work for many years. After all that, we decided to actually apply vCons to this problem, and so now we essentially use those vCon conversations to establish an audit trail effectively for our compliance documentation at the end of the pipeline.
Wow. And how's that been, how's the implementation? How'd that go? How did that go for you? And how much work was it for you to integrate vCons into your workflow?
Honestly, it was trivial. We, of course, we all know that we currently live in a kind of this, AI coding universe. So all of our, historical understandings about how long things should take and so on, just a little bit out the window, right? We have a well-structured, multi-repository kind of tool set that we use to deliver the Agent Genie capability. And so layering in the vCon was really, kind of half a day's worth of work of just kind of adapting all of the places where we normally would use logging and changing those to, vCon implementation. And it was actually really easy because the documentation is fantastic. There are great examples. There's a huge community. So when you're using AI to generate the code for the projects that you're building, and you've got this tremendous body of information and great presentation, it doesn't make mistakes. It just follows the well-trodden patterns, right?
Wow. And for your future customers who will be leveraging the what you're building, do you plan on promoting the fact that you're powered by vCons as one of the selling points, or are you going to keep it hidden, or have you thought about how? I'm looking for ways for, of course, for the magic of vCons to percolate and get around the world. And there are some people I've speak to who they keep vCons hidden. It's like that's their secret sauce. It works really well internally. They don't promote it. Other people are like over the top, like, yes, we're powered by vCons. And I ask them, what are they using vCons for? And they'll tell me later. But they're really fascinated with having stand. And here you have implemented your solution, doing it. And it's like, this is cool.
So, let's be clear. So we need to generate these compliance artifacts, right?
Right.
And there's an infinite number of platforms that need to then consume these artifacts. And so many people have their own homespun stuff. There's kind of like the initial generation from 5, 6, 7 years ago. There's lots of kind of new AI-centric compliance monitoring tools that are entering. And so rather than thinking about how to use an infinite number of consumers for this, we decided it would actually be a lot easier to just use a really good standard.
Yeah.
And then can go from vCon to anything, right? Without losing that auditability. And there's lots of, there's good standards-based tools and capabilities to validate those vCons, and for those compliance professionals then to use kind of off-the-shelf, well-understood technologies to manipulate them, dig into them, search them for patterns, like all of the things that they want to do. Because just because I produce this data doesn't mean that it's done, right? They need to be able to do something with it. So why not use something that they can consume easily, as opposed to, well, this is my standard, and the next company, this is their standard, and so on.
Well, I'm just looking to lean towards you, because when people come to me and they say, why should we be standards based, you understand the benefits of that. And I do think that the more companies who come in with supporting a vCon, particularly in a corporate environment, because right now I've been promoting operability. So congratulations on getting what you're doing. And I hope sometime next year to start doing, industry-wide interoperability. So someone could take one of your artifacts that was created for specific purposes on the compliance side and ingest it and show how the secondary vCon keeps track of how your data was used, and being able to follow through the entire life cycle of origination and then proof, and then how it goes through an entire truly through your own ecosystem.
And that's exactly right. So if you recall, I said we first ingest the policies. So we start a conversation with the compliance professional. He tells us, or she tells us, what the compliance sphere is. We then use that information in making the compliance negotiation that then informs the compliance implementation. So there's actually a chain here, right? A very long chain that ends with, and we created the artifacts for you because you requested them, and this is the conversation where you requested them, right? So that entire chain is now, can be demonstrably connected. So when someone asks, well, why did the AI make this thing happen, right? We've got a chain all the way back to this was the policy, this was the decision, this was the request, and so on.
I love that. Wow. And would you like to show would you like to show a little bit about what you've been working on if we can get this share screen working here? Would you like to show any of that?
You caught me flat-footed. It's not exactly like an easy to show because it's kind of in the background. But
yeah, no, I get it. It's like I'm asking you to share, show me your air, show me the ground. I get it. It's running there. We know it's there, and it's part of the tooling of what makes what you work. I hear you. I was just excited about this, but I'll tell you what. October 13th in Atlanta. You are one of the speakers at Voice and Conversations on the Net. One of the things that we're having is pre-conference is the vCon Day, and adjacent to that is our Voice AI Live. And there you'll have a chance to actually show that stuff live, and people will see this in action. And so we don't have to
absolutely.
show it now. I just
we'll have we'll be a little prepared, a little better prepared, Jeff. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I mean, it takes a lot of work to get to where you are in terms of productizing the standard and integrating it into your work. And I don't know, I'm just vCon happy. What can I tell you? It's
yeah, no, for sure. No, so we actually have kind of another use for it as well, which is kind of more this like voice-based stuff, which we were talking about. So we do make these like outbound calling agents. So we have customers, for example, in collections, and
okay.
Collections is a very compliance centric kind of sphere of activity.
Yes.
You say the wrong thing on a collections call, there's potentially a $2,000 fine per call. So it's right. So it's pretty hairy. And if anyone who's ever used AI knows that it is easy to look good for a minute. It's hard to look good call after call after call, right?
Yeah.
And so
a lot of drift. A lot of drift happens.
A lot of drift. So we have a lot of infrastructure in place, multiple tiers of AIs and state machines and all sorts of stuff that we do in the background to make sure that they stay on message. But one of the things that we also use is, as kind of proof that they're staying on message and kind of proof that they're staying in context, and how they got that context is by essentially tracking each one of those calls, rolling it into a vCon so that we can, again, demonstrate for compliance purposes for our customers, for their auditors, exactly what happened and what were the kind of conversations and policies that led into how the conversation went. So it's pretty neat. We've been kind of drinking the vCon Kool-Aid around here for a while now.
Well, I am very excited to showcase the work that you're doing, and I'm grateful that you'll be able to be joining us in Atlanta in October, just I guess 6 weeks from now. And welcome to the vCon ecosystem. And the fun part will be you'll be around a bunch of other companies, some of them with announced products, some without announced products, but a lot of appreciation for the hard work that's been going on at the IETF, contributed by many people, including some of the folks who will be with us at the conference. And, I think we're going to see a huge influx of interest in vCons, not only as the RFC gets published, but if you think about, if you're an FDE and you're working in AI, the more I think about how vCons will be used in the near future for the interagent communication, for capturing that rationalization of how the AIs worked, in addition to being that standard for conversations. To me, if you're an FDE, a vCon is an essential part of your toolkit. If you're going out into the field and you're deploying an AI-ready solution, how could you not speak vCon? So, to me, we're the secret sauce that the FDEs need.
Look, I couldn't agree with you more. I think we're as software people, we're used to just kind of logging, and that's always been our secret weapon, right?
Yeah.
But as these as we deploy these systems that kind of sit somewhere between what we're used to people doing and what we're used to code doing, we need to have a way to demonstrate the rationale behind their activity
Yeah.
in a way that both, instructs us in how to make them better, but also allows us to demonstrate to our clients and their customers how we got there and why we say what we said, and to make sure that we're not being accused of saying things we didn't say, which is, also an emerging thing, right? Like we have, what we find in the wild is we have these two kind of new and maybe underappreciated issues that we need to deal with. One is just people making stuff up because it's an AI, prove me wrong, right?
Right.
And the other is this idea of the drift caused especially by the like active attempts to circumvent the system, right? So you see this in self-driving cars where motorists try to kind of threateningly drive towards them to see what they'll do, right?
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's scary. I mean, and you're putting people on edge cases, and like you don't want to be on the wrong result of those edge cases. If
exactly.
Wow. Well, Mark, this is great stuff. I congratulate you and your team for bringing this together. We're grateful for your support. I look forward to seeing you in Atlanta, and maybe we'll do a live demo before. We'll see. Thanks
There
for
you
joining
go.
me today. We're sort of ad hoc doing it live because we can.
That's right. The pleasure is always, Jeff. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you.